black coffee like a crazy person.
Nice. Well, welcome back to Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. This is Wes. It's time for the Comics Aficionados, the best damn comic book related podcast on the interwebs. Got a great panel for you today. Got lots of interesting stuff. Ta-Nehisi Coates talking a little bit of smack on Marvel Comics on his way out the door. Cannot wait to get into that. We've got all sorts of Batman stuff to talk about. We've got the summer movie season is actually going to occur this year, so we're going to get everyone hyped up on all the movies that they can be looking forward to and a few of other topics. Now let's get to the panel. We've got a newcomer here. We've got Old Man David. He's a veteran animator in the animation industry. How you doing, David?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Wes, for having me on the show. This is really exciting. I feel like a Make-A-Wish kid. I made a wish to be on the show, and I get to be on it. And I hope that I can actually say one thing interesting.
Well, I think you got two in you. So I think you're our first panelist from Canada. So we'll be talking all about the comic book industry. Huh?
Yeah, I wonder if you guys will pick up. I wonder if you're gonna notice that I'm from Canada here. Okay. Actually, what I'm gonna prove today is that Canadians are total jerks.
Perfect. I've already worked with Canadians, so
I've been to Montreal. I know.
Well, that's
we're talking about French Canadians.
Listen,
the guy I worked with was from Nova Scotia.
I'm on the West Coast. I'm in British Columbia, that's where Vancouver is. I was born in Montreal, though, so some of you hold that against me or don't. That's up to you. That is up to you. I won't take offense, but I'm going to show you that Canadians can be, they say we're nice. Maybe I'm going to be a jerk. I don't know. We'll see.
Perfect. You'll fit right in. Next up, we've got award-winning comic book editor and writer Joe Corallo, one of the hottest guys in comic books right now. Everything's working your way, right?
I sure, it's fine. I'll take it. It's a lovely morning. About to have some coffee and talk about comics and controversy here on Thinking Critical.
Well, who would have thunk it? Next up, who we got? We've got the heel of the comic book industry, the heel retailer out there, Uel Carter at Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. Are you ready to shoot on the industry?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's an easy mark to hit. So let's go for it.
Absolutely. Next up, we've got the curmudgeon of critical himself, Just Pele. How you doing, Pele? You're from parts unknown. People are always asking where your shop is.
The bottom end of Appalachia. We're way out there where they drink moonshine and chase after their cousins. But no, sometimes. But it's beautiful out here. It's hard to really be upset when you're out in the beautiful Smoky Mountains. But we're going to talk about comics today, and we're going to rip into Marvel and rip into some wankers, and we're going to have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And some of you may have noticed that my co-host, Doc, is not with us. He had to change his tires this morning. Didn't know if he was going to make it. So we've got Perch filling in as the co-host of the Comics Aficionados. Hopefully he's not too hungover from last night's live stream. I think Uel might have been there.
Yeah. Oh, I shouldn't say him.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Glad to be on. Not hungover at all.
All right. Well, we've got a super chat already. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Lane Kramer. We are 5 days from Hellfire Gala. I couldn't be more excited. With planet-sized comics coming, you ready for great costumes, 12 parts of storytelling, everything nice. We'll be mid-June. You go Wednesday, X-Men. Are you ready for Hellfire Gala, Perch?
Sure, yeah. We mentioned this last night with Uel. I'm still convinced this was probably an idea that was like, hey, in one issue, why don't we have a party? And this became 12 issues and covers and gowns and let's put Eminem in it. It's one of those things that just how I would love to know the original thinking of the idea and then how we got here. Just that path would have been fascinating watching.
Yeah. I want to write the comic book about them making this comic book event.
There you go.
I like to think that Eminem kept badgering them and they were like, listen, guys, Eminem is demanding to be in a comic. We've been pushing this off too long since that Punisher thing that Fred Van Lente wrote like a decade ago. So got to put him in something, and they settled on the Hellfire Gala. They were like, this is like 8 issues longer than it should be. There's got to be room for Eminem in there somewhere.
Hopefully they kill him off. That'd be great.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Oh,
Eminem, we grew up together. He's an artist.
He's
We've
also
got
a mutant, so they could put him to the front of the line. So it's
Yeah.
okay.
resurrected. Yeah. We've got Darth Bobcat, How to Fix Problems, puts Coates on all Batman books so the sales tank, forcing DC to diversify their offerings. Magic.
Magic.
That might just
beautiful.
work. I think that might just do it. Thank
Maybe
you
we should
very
all
much.
say magic together.
You want Coates to write 37 comics?
37 Batman comics.
Poor
It
Coates.
says
That's
all
too much.
Batman comics. So.
That
I'm
would be a lot.
lowballing here, but
Yeah.
52
So we've also
is
got- Joe Brett with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. That's very generous.
Wow.
You guys are awesome. Thanks. No, Joe, you're awesome. And you have 2 first names. So I like that. Both all my kids have 2 first names. So thank you very much for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. And we do. Doc jumped the gun. It turns out he is here. He got his tires changed in time, and he says Nuke Krakow. We're going to talk about that on the channel in tomorrow's This Week in X-Men. And we've also got comic book writer, also a veteran of the animation industry
Eric.
and the video game industry, Eric Canetti. Coates on his way out being critical of his previous employer about poor practices. He was well aware of those issues while working for them, is grossly insincere and on brand for him. I don't know. What do you think about that, Joe? You're a comic book writer. You're an editor. Do you think, on your way out the door is the time to air your grievances?
I think if you know you're never going to work there again, it is. But I mean, yeah, I guess he doesn't plan on working there or working under that regime. You can do that kind of stuff if you're like John Byrne, another asshole Canadian. But no, I mean, he was frustrated from the start without them like really going into too much. I think I brought this up before. I think Perch has brought this up before. When he was originally approached to write for them, he said, "Great, I'd love to do Spider-Man," and they were like, "Oh, no, we're asking you about Black Panther. I don't know why you thought we'd want you to like write a not Black Panther character." And so, like, kind of out the gate, there's problem. And I kind of wish we got to see him write what he would have actually wanted to write, because that could have been a better fit.
No.
Something he actually wanted to write as opposed to something that they were like, "No, you're just doing this." So.
Well, it might not have been good Pele, but at least it would have been something he'd be into.
It would have been
And
hilarious
also-
to see it crater.
Well, I mean,
that would have been fun. That would have been entertaining.
Maybe he only has one good story. Maybe it's a Spidey story, and you put him on Black Panther, and it's like it was never going to be good potentially. I know a lot of people that liked it, but yeah.
Well, I want to call out Ta-Nehisi Coates for his treatment of Captain America fans. I mean, like, is that book? He's been on that book, and whether he likes it or not, I look at it like, man, here you are. You've been invited to the show. You've got the job at Marvel. I mean, I assume it's his dream come true to come work at make comics. Why wouldn't you make amazing comics? That's what I don't kind of get about him, is like, with Captain America, like, Captain America is a side character in that book. Like, I mean, I've done an experiment where I took like 5 issues and I kind of counted how many panels per page Captain America shows up in. And on average, he might be in 4 panels of the book. Like, that's a book called Captain America.
He's not even Captain America right now. Not really.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But when you're dealing with that as well, though, no, Ta-Nehisi Coates didn't push his way into Revort's office or anyone like that and say, "Listen, punks, you're letting me write Captain America. You don't get a say, and I'm only going to put Captain America in 4 panels, and there's nothing you can do about it because I won't rewrite anything, and you can't do anything, and you have no recourse against a freelance independent contractor with no job security that could be fired at any time. Like,
He couldn't be fired. He's gonna live. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think Coates could have let him go.
No, but I'm saying they technically could have.
Sure,
you know, they could have looked at, or before anything happened, they could have looked at the outline, what he wanted to do with the book, and been like,
Not a good
no.
Well, I mean, you might, like, he may not have come in and said, "Oh, I'm not going to do any rewrites," but it feels like there weren't any rewrites. And when you hear how editorial over Marvel, we're only talking about Marvel right now, over the years has gotten involved with some of the dumbest things. They didn't, there was no oversight in that company, really, I think, when it comes to like really crafting a good story. It's either up to the writer and the artist, or it's over, unless they get lucky and one of their editors actually cares about doing something, getting work done.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that picking and choosing. Sorry, you were going to jump in.
I mean, well, I was just going to comment. Look, I'll just say what Doc was going to say. That Coates
Coates. He doesn't put asses in seats.
Coates is an essayist. He's not a fiction writer. He's never written anything fiction that's worth reading, and he's never proven otherwise. So there's, he was brought in there because of his name recognition, and they wanted to set a particular tone for Marvel Comics going forward. And, they found out that tone doesn't sell. So it's like, well, okay. And he's out the door now, and he's mad because they didn't go along with his way of thinking. That's it.
Seem mad.
Well,
He's
and the
got
thing is
Superman
that I'm sorry, Wes, go.
Well, he doesn't seem very mad. He just seemed like he wanted to point out some things that were wrong with it. I don't know that he's aggrieved. He's not even talking about how they treated him. He's talking about how they treated other people.
It's like he's waving the flag for all these other people. You're an outsider that was given everything
on a plate.
Pretty much on a plate. It's just like when Joss Whedon comes in, or Meltzer, or Jeff Loeb, Well, actually, Jeff Loeb's a little different. But, these guys outside the industry coming in, and Marvel and DC, they're genuflect. They say, you can do anything to our characters you want. They've been dead a few minutes. It's okay. Don't worry. Bring them back. Anything. It doesn't matter. And then a person who's been writing or slaving away to try and get to a book that, they don't get anybody taking care of them. And all this time, Ta-Nehisi Coates, the star, everybody loves Ta-Nehisi Coates, he could have been waving the flag all during that time for these people, and he didn't do it. I don't really think that what he's saying is necessarily accurate or important. You're not changing the culture. You're just talking about it after the fact.
Yeah.
I think there's some people that are misconstruing what he's saying, and this is kind of an example. And I want to say thank you to Wolfstein 3D for supporting the channel. Isn't Coates one of the people that constantly speaks out when a white artist writes a black character? He created the environment he now calls out. That's not really what he's calling out. I've got some of the quotes. This is one of the things he says. There are people who make their living off of comic books, and I wish that Marvel found better ways to compensate the creators who help make Black Panther Black Panther. I wish that they found better ways to compensate the folks who made Captain America Captain America. And then he goes on to say, the corporate side of this, though, is not pretty. It's not pretty at all. How you treat people who create the basis for this, I don't love it. And finally, he kind of says, I don't know what the relationship will be like in the future, but as a creator, you think about that. You think about how people treat other people. You think about how corporations treat other people, and I just don't love it. He's talking about the compensation people and like the credit people are getting for the characters and the stories that they created.
Well, they can sell more comics then. They don't sell comics. If you don't make the money, you don't bring in the butts in the seats, to quote Doc, you're not going to get the compensation. So, if you're only selling 15, 20,000 copies, what kind of compensation do you want?
He's talking about Ed Brubaker in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and the Death of Captain America, which certainly generated money and ended up generating them probably over $1 billion just with, well over $1 billion with, I don't know about profit.
How are you gonna compensate Ed Brubaker when it should be Roger Stern and all the other people that worked on Captain America before Ed Brubaker? Exactly. Ed Brubaker didn't come up with a new story. He just came up. He just brought a dead character back to life. He didn't create anything. Yeah. I've heard of Winter in relation with Russia all my life. Okay, he didn't do anything new.
Yeah, Yeah, to piggyback on what you're saying, that this is something that's happened a lot where it's a God, why am I? Of course, now I blank on the term of it, but it's when you're creating it's not a redundant character, but you're just like adding a new coat of paint on an already existing character. It's been established that you don't get that credit or money or things like that. You're just adding another layer to a character that's already existing. There's a lot of precedence for that. So I do think that particular story does kind of get blown out of proportion in the way it's kind of been received, and Ed Brubaker's doing great. I would love to have a life that was screwed over as hard as Ed Brubaker's life.
I think a lot of
your Jim Starlins out there and people like that, and
I mean, Coates talks about how Ed Brubaker can't get in contact with the people who are making Falcon and Winter Soldier. But it's like, I mean, do they need to talk to him to make the show? Like, does he have to be able to get on the phone with the showrunner to have a conversation about the show? I mean, the show has moved on from its original interpretation. Like, Brubaker wrote this, and then now it's gone to the TV show. When I watched Falcon Winter Soldier, I didn't feel like I was reading or watching something that was really inspired by Brubaker. I just felt like this is the MCU's version, and like I think Brubaker probably got his name in the credits, but I mean, what else does he need?
I feel like I'm attacking creators, and I'm not. Sorry, Joe, Perch. I mean, people should be compensated. It's just, it's like Coates is coming out, and the only person he's saying is Ed Brubaker, someone who hasn't been at Marvel for forever now, and ignoring all the people that were working with him at the same time. And it's all about Hollywood and superstar status and getting your compensation, and that all is nice, but we're talking about some behemoth corporation in Disney, and Marvel wasn't ever that great either. So, what do you expect? It's comic books.
I mean, I kind of feel like you're responsible for yourself. I work in animation in Vancouver. I'm a character designer, and the thing is that's mostly what I do. If I take a job and I feel like the work that they're asking me to do doesn't match the wage that they originally offered me, I say to them, hey, look, I'm finding myself working 16 hours a day instead of the 8 that we kind of agreed to. Maybe I need to make X amount for this. And they can say yes, or they can say no. And then I've taken care of myself in that situation, right? That's kind of how I look at it. If these creators are being hard done by Marvel, then, or by whatever contract that they're tied to, then maybe it's time to say goodbye and look for something else.
I mean, there's a bunch of things here, across the board. Ta-Nehisi Coates' run was poor. It didn't come out. The comments before that are correct is that there's somebody in editorial let him do this. I mean, he pitched this story. In theory, many people looked at it and they went with it. So, that's on Marvel as much as it is on Coates for that run. In terms of what he's saying, I mean, the compensation and kind of the overall incentive program for creators sucks. It really does. Yeah. People are paid too little. There's no incentive for these freelancers to actually have long-term commitments to the company other than personal pride. And don't get me wrong, people should have personal pride, and they should try and do the best job they can. But smart companies know you also incent them to try and put in their best work and stay with the company. And if they're successful and they do a good job, they want to keep doing that job with you rather than go to Image because you're incenting them well. I mean, that would be smart. But also at the same point, I mean, Coates' comments, interestingly enough, what was the point of what he did? It's not going to help creators. If anything, it's just going to be another case, much like others who have left and then make these kinds of comments. Marvel, if anything, is going to get more restrictive. They're going
exactly.
They're just going to make this worse for people. It's not like Marvel's like, hey, we should actually treat our people better because of this guy who's leaving out the door and said we didn't do such a great job. Let's call up these creators that maybe were stiffing on payments and give them a little bit more. Because Coates is right. That's not going to happen. And whatever spotlight he draws onto Marvel for this, it's not like the public or the comic fans are going to be like, hey, let's band together and put pressure on them to pay them more. None of this is going to help. It's just going to make these contracts tougher in the future.
So Doc says, and thank you for supporting the channel, Doc. I'm glad you appreciated the impersonation. Guy whose entire career is based on grievance, airs grievance on the way out the door with an employer, 100% on brand.
Yep.
It kind of feels like potentially it is. Yes.
Well, I mean, there's also the aspect of marketing, because he also brings that up, and that's a book that, you know, they put a lot of, when he first did Black Panther, they put a lot of marketing behind that. It sold well. There was consistent art for the first bit of issues, and then they dropped the ball, and people forgot Coates was even on the book. It's a trivia question that he's on Captain America. That's how little they market it. Like, if you ask most people coming in, like, oh, who's writing Captain America right now? If they're not already reading it, they're I don't know. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for keeping on top of things, I wouldn't know. Like, that's bad.
Yeah,
Captain
Coates
America's a big character. Yeah.
Coates is one of the few creators that got his comic book actually distributed inside a movie theater with the movie as a free giveaway and a promotion. He's received more marketing support than pretty much anyone else in that company. They did drop the ball, but I mean, they definitely gave Coates. Yeah, they always do, which is bad. Again, his statement isn't bad. It's a bit rich coming from him, and he's not helping anyone going forward by saying it this way. I mean, arguably, the time to say this was when he was in issue 6 of Black Panther, and he's still in the company. He still has an active book, and then he's working as somebody inside. Now, granted, they could fire him, but then that would make them look terrible if he made these comments and they fired him off a book. With him going out the door, it's a very safe comment because nothing really is going to happen.
Well, Eric Canetti, comic book artist, thank you so much for supporting the channel. $20 is very generous. He kind of piggybacks on that idea, Perch. Coates interjects criticism without prompting from the interviewer. Look at this thing that's bad that I've got no intention of intervening short of this piss poor comment on my way out the door. I'm a good guy.
Isn't that also just Twitter and social media culture in general? I mean, most people are just constantly coming out of the woodwork to be like, I've identified this thing as a problem, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm really great for mentioning these gross injustices in the world. Please tell me I'm good. Is like, I feel, and I'm not trying to diminish what Eric's saying at all, but I feel like there's a whole generation of people in that comics right now, and other fields. It's not just comics, but
it's the art of the virtue signal.
You know,
it's social media. I mean, it's cowardly. It happens all over the place, and it's like, hey, from within my safe little location, surrounded by my friends and my little club that I've constructed, here's my thoughts on this industry that needs to be created. It doesn't help. It doesn't actually. Nobody actually sees it through. Again, if he cared about this stuff, and I am in agreement. Creators need better incentive programs. I'm in agreement that marketing programs are bad. What he said, I don't have a fundamental disagreement at all. But he gave that criticism in a way that ensures zero pickup or chance of success from it. The only likely outcome is that new creators coming up are going to have more restrictions put on them so that they don't say anything because they don't have this celebrity of being an Atlantic writer with his kind of credentials. It's just going to hurt people.
Let's look at a successful creator, Donny Cates. Some people love him, hate him. Some people personally don't like him. They love what he writes. Some people love what he, don't really like what he writes, but they personally love. There's all categories of people out there. But he writes he sells what he writes, and it is constantly, when he writes a series, it's in the top 10. I mean, it's bang. At least the first few issues of it are just tattooing the top 5. And he's compensated. They've actually worked out, renegotiated in the middle of a series his contract to give him more money, because he puts out 60,000, 80,000 copies of a book, and he's actually hitting above the targets that he's supposed to hit. If you have that type of incentive, you have that type of drive, you're going to be properly compensated. And I guess people just want to write what they want. They don't want to write something that's going to sell well. They want to write for their own vanity, or they want to write for their own niche group, or for their own activist thing. And that's fine, but it's not going to appeal to as many people, and it's not going to put the asses in the seats. And if you do that, they will compensate you. If you don't, they won't. And I think it's just that simple. They want to be activists. They want to preach and stuff like that in their comics. They sell 10 or 15,000 copies, and then they want the moon for it. And it's like, or if they want, double what they're making now, there's no reason for it. You haven't earned it. They want what they haven't earned. And it's just basically that simple. In my opinion, it's that basic.
We also have Lauren Hazel with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Yeah, that's true. Might make it worse for others in the industry. It was extremely safe commentary, not helpful for others in it for decades. Do you think this is going to cause problems for other people in Marvel? I know Perch has touched on it, but Joe, you're in the industry. You have friends probably that work at Marvel. Is this something that's going to cause more headaches than be helpful?
I don't know if it's going to do anything. I think people are still going to act how they're acting, and if there are more restrictions, they'll just be reprimanded. I don't think people are going to actually change how they're acting. I mean, it sounds like there's probably going to be more social media restrictions and things like that coming up, and we'll see how that goes. But beyond that, I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. I think it is just like, all right, Ta-Nehisi Coates is saying what he feels like saying, whatever. I would be shocked if more than a handful of people at Marvel read the interview, like actually read it and beyond like a headline. It's
nothing they don't know. I mean, Marvel knows that they treat people poorly, so it's not news to them. I just kind of like it. It's like, this is Ta-Nehisi Coates' like exit interview, but it's in public. Like, this is something you'd say to HR on your way out. Like you'd say like, well, I really enjoyed working here, but you guys treat this or that, and it's like, and you're walking out. Like, it's basically statements that you make in an exit interview, knowing that, yeah, I don't want to come back here.
Man, he should have read that Cena Grace interview and really burnt that bridge to the ground.
Yeah.
At least Cena, that came out like a couple years later, right, or something.
That was about a year and a half ago. Is one, and the Chelsea Kane one was about a year and a half before that.
Now she knows how to burn a bridge.
Yeah, that was scorched earth. You gotta respect Chelsea Kane. We've also got Wolf Speed 3D with the €549. Fortunately enough, Cates can put his money where his mouth is and play hardball on creator compensation for the Superman movie.
Yeah, exactly. He can go and say, oh, well, this is obviously a story that Kurt Swan and Carrie Bates worked on. We should make sure they get some money for this. Yeah,
make sure that there's full credits. Maybe it'll be in the opening sequence.
Make sure it's there.
I'm sure he'll get right on that.
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure that they get whatever percentage, and it'll be interesting. I don't imagine that's going to happen. We also have.
I didn't see any mention of compensating Bob Morello's parents or Kyle Baker in there for Falcon Winter Soldier.
He's only talking about the stars, people that people care about.
I like Kyle Baker.
Pardon me.
Which is a good point, Uel. That's another part of this problem. And one thing I hate about this entire kind of club mentality is it's like even in the grievances, we're just going to promote the big names. Mm-hmm. Like none of this is helping up and coming people. It's just I just hate it so much.
Yeah. Neo Star Productions supporting the channel. Remember when writing for yourself and writing for the fans wasn't mutually exclusive. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Do you remember Pele?
Oh, I remember all too well. There was a time when, when things weren't just activism, that people could actually talk about things that mattered to them, and they put it in the story, but they didn't let it dominate the story. And they didn't let it become all about them, all about their pet project, all about their pet activist thing. And they wrote a great story, and it was in there, but it didn't dominate, it didn't overpower it. It's kind of like, you want something, you want chicken ginger. Well, you don't make ginger the main ingredient when you're doing this. You overpower the whole dish. And unfortunately, that's what they've done. And they want everybody to still love it. They want people to love it as much as they do. But, 9 times out of 10, people just spit it out. And unfortunately, we've reached that point now, and we've long past reached that point, in my opinion. But can they go back to that? Yeah, I think so. There's creators that have kind of checked themselves and kind of pulled back some. I think that Immortal Hulk, great example. He kind of checked himself. And in that series, and that wasn't very well received. I'm going to kind of step back a little bit, and the series has gotten much better, And there's some people I guess have the presence of mind to do that, and others don't.
Mm-hmm. So we've also got Dark Admiral March Hare, been here since day one. This was the equivalent of purposely farting in a room you're not coming back into, because his lazy cloud, even out the door. Well, you got a point there, Dark Admiral March Hare.
I like that analogy, yeah.
Sure, but there's also, to the previous point about writing for the fans or writing for yourself, there's also like a third group, which is, if anyone read like a lot of those like Silver and Bronze Age like Superman stories, where it's like, I don't know who the hell they're writing these for. Like Superboy wants to hook up with a mermaid. Like there's stuff where it's just like, I don't know, a cat licks an asteroid and becomes like a living tornado. Is that a thing? Let's do that. Like, I don't know what the hell those stories. They're not for whoever's writing them. I can't imagine, and I don't think fans were clamoring for a lot of these things. Like, Superman fights a giant clam monster. I don't know, like whatever. It's so there's that category too.
They wrote for their market. Those comics are selling hundreds of thousands of books.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they actually were, yeah.
Fans weren't asking for them, but on another level, fans were tuned to that was a comic we want, or that was a comic that they consumed, or maybe just they hadn't gotten modern comics, so they didn't know what they didn't want. But whatever
they were giving fans not what they wanted, but what they needed.
What about was it Julius Schwartz? He said he had that mandate that we got to make sure we have a monkey on the cover of a comic and all this other stuff going on, because these are the things that people pick up comics when they see it. That's a mandate. That's not necessarily writing or drawing something you want, but it is definitely for the fans, whether they knew it or not also.
If it was up to Julie Schwartz, every cover would have been a giant ape with a burning city behind it and in big orange letters, like, in this issue, someone dies.
Did anybody ever do like all of his gimmicks on one cover? I don't know. But I would love to see it, Eric Canetti. Since you're fun anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, do that cover. I'll pay you $1,000.
Whoa. Well, there you go. We've also got JDC with the $20 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Disney should include Brubaker epping on Winter Soldier. Disney may have taken the show in a different direction, but that direction is simply the roof. You can't have a roof without having the foundation. Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying, but they kind of already have it with the comic book. Unless they want to bring him on as a consultant, and they try. Here's the problem, Perch. They kind of try to bring in the comic writers as consultants when they had that writing room, and it kind of it did not go well.
Yeah, no, that was a problem, and that there's a lot of people within Disney media who remember that stuff today. That this kind of
Kevin Feige being one of them.
Yeah, Kevin Feige definitely remembers this group that came in who was the creative consultant team that acted like a bunch of assholes and pretty much aren't coming back. So yes, I think when you have a creator that contributes so much to this run, you should do something. But I mean, the best way is not necessarily to include Brubaker or Epting. Make sure he gets a check. That would be an even better reward. Just send this guy a big check to say, hey, you helped contribute massively to this movie.
If people know there are bonuses to be had, they're going to work harder.
No, there's too many creators that I've talked to, that Joe and I have talked to, that other places that the show comes out and it's like conveniently the financial bonus does not seem to come their way after these things, and it's like they're owed some money. Give them some money. They don't need to bring Ed in and have him tour the set. That'd be nice, but I guarantee Brubaker would like a check.
Yeah, I mean, considering how much money that the film made and everything, I think that's more than reasonable. If they'd cut him a $50,000 check, which is, what some of the actors had in the cushions of their trailers. I'm just kidding, but cut him a reasonable check, and you wouldn't have heard a word from him.
You can also do nice things. You can bring him to the set. You can tour him around. You can meet people. You can take some photos. You can put up on social media. Look, Brubaker and Epting visited the set from a scene that they wrote in the comic.
Released the trade in a special edition.
Yeah, great commentary. And here's a check. In fact, you pick a little picture of Feige giving him a check and shaking hands, and everybody's smiling, and whatever you want to do.
And it's a tax write-off. I mean, you're compensating the original creator. That's 100% can be written off. I don't understand why they just didn't do it.
Wouldn't that have been in their contracts initially, though? Like,
yes.
When this stuff goes to... So is Brubaker... I've read some of this. Was Brubaker saying that there was zero compensation that came from these movies and TV shows, or there was some, but it wasn't enough?
He's saying that he was compensated more for a cameo in a movie than he was for, writing essentially the story that was adapted into Captain America Winter Soldier, the movie that made all that money. Yeah. So, Perch, one of the things that we've seen recently is Kevin Feige is kind of downplayed the importance of comic books and important comic book runs in developing movies into Marvel Comics. Do you think, obviously with what happened with the writing room, they're trying to do some things with the Eternals and other properties, coming up. It feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like Kevin Feige is really invested in the comics division, even though he's supposedly the chief creative officer.
I mean, I think he's invested in the brand, and I think the biggest moneymaker and aspect of the brand is the movies, and so it trickles down from there. I mean, his comment is not wrong. It's like, look, they can continue to churn out these movies without comic runs, and I think he's making a bit of a statement. The context of the rest of that is that they're not going to have this kind of Snyder cut-like thing that's going to happen over at Marvel, because they're going to keep a lid on that stuff. And so it's like, oh, this wasn't adapted perfectly from the comic. Well, go screw yourself. It's kind of the context there. Yeah, so it would be nice if the chief creative officer, head of that department, had more of an interest in the comics. That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Well, most of the movies in Marvel that have been adapted successfully and done really well are all off of comics, though, Joe.
Yeah, but a lot of them borrow aspects of them pretty heavily. For whatever reason, and I have no idea why, zero people talk about how you don't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe without Denny O'Neil. They mined his run so heavily for that first movie, and there was no pomp and circumstance around that. There was no celebration of Denny O'Neil. There was no, after multiple more successful movies, an Avengers movie, that studio, that was their Hail Mary pass, was that Iron Man movie. And nothing. No one from Marvel talks about it. No one gave Denny anything special. Coates certainly didn't bring that up as he is exiting. Denny has since passed, but I can't imagine his son would turn down a check. Len Wein should have died one of the richest men to ever work in comics, and that never happened. it's wild to me how everyone talks about someone like Ed Brubaker because he's vocal about it and he makes it known. He's good like that. But there are a lot of people who aren't that deserve more than Ed. So
yeah, it's crazy when you hear some of the stories about like the original creators behind Batman, the original creators behind Superman, and with all that they contributed and the amount of revenue they generated just over the amount of time, and eventually I believe one of the creators of Batman was found like homeless at some point. It feels like it's kind of par for the course for the industry to treat people kind of like dirt when they're no longer making them money at the moment.
Well, it's kind of like, this is a conversation about, cradle to grave or something like that. How long does the business that you work for owe you, even though you no longer work for them? I guess is kind of what it is. And I'm sure like those original creators, we never had any concept that there were going to be movies like this. So, I'm creating this stuff, I'm drawing it, and all they really get upset with at the time are Todd McFarlane. They're making toys and t-shirts and posters off this stuff, and I ain't seeing nothing off of it. That was like the extent of it. And then movies came, and it's been a whole new thing to get upset about and like start taking a look at our contracts and how we're getting compensated. And only now going forward, I mean, no writer is coming in. Like, I'm going to get a job at Marvel, and I'm going to do Spider-Man, let's say, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to say, all right, so what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do when you make a movie off something I'm writing here? And they're not going to care. They don't want me then, right? That's what I assume. And there's all sorts of tricks and things that they can do to ace you out of your money. Like, oh, it's not the title of the movie, or this is just a character that was kind of like based off another character, so you didn't really create anything. And, right. I feel like I'm all over the place on this one. I'm totally for creators' rights, but I also, as a business owner, understand that, like, I owe the success of my store where we are now with all the people that have worked for me. They don't work for me anymore, and I don't care.
But that's a little bit different. You're not selling something that they made for you today.
Sure thing. Yeah. It gets embroiled with all the different people that have worked on an IP, and what is what, and who do we compensate? You just got to pay everybody. That's really what it is. Pay everybody. Yeah.
So Eric Canetti followed up, and he wanted to say, I just gave that All Monkeys and Apes cover with Everyone Dies tag on it a quick thought. Hey, you're killing me. It's so damn tempting. He might do it there, Perch. He might do it.
I'll write you a check. I mean, Eric, I got to get you back on the phone anyway. I got some ideas for you.
There you go. Oh, man, we're building relationships here. Oh, we might have had a transaction. All right. Thank you very much, Eric Canetti. We've also got Nerdy Girl Creates. We'll throw this one to you, David. Do you think the MCU would have gone in a different direction for Phase 4 if the all-new, all-different comics did not come out?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those characters wouldn't have existed then, so they would have been different movies.
What do you think about that one, David?
Do I think the MCU would have gone in a different direction for Phase 4 if the all-new, all-different comics? I don't know, to be honest. Like
would they have not killed off Iron Man and Captain America unless they thought there was another generation kind of waiting to follow?
Well, I mean, the thing is it's a backup plan that they have, right? Like, I mean, obviously they created these new characters based on, deriving them from old characters. But the fact of the matter is like, Robert Downey Jr., these guys are getting older. They've been playing these characters for so long. Like, I mean, what's your option? Like, do you recast Iron Man, like, considering you're coming off of his portrayal being so beloved by this actor? You kind of have to use these characters from all new, all different, I suppose. But hopefully you do it and you show that these characters aren't that great, and then you just reset the whole Marvel universe again with your big popular characters. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yep. I see the. How do you reset Robert Downey Jr. though? That's what's so.
Yeah, well,
some of these guys, they are that character.
You just have him be the voice of Jarvis.
Ooh, yeah, that's he's the easiest. He's the easiest because it's like, you make AI Tony, and just like they did in the comics, and that's not the original Tony Stark. That's not even close to being the original Tony Stark. So go ahead, man.
Constantly reinvigorating the stories and characters works a lot better in comics, I think, because you don't get attached. I mean, you get attached to writers and artists and all that kind of stuff, but it's not like you get attached to specific actors. So, a new creative team can come on and be like, okay, we're taking Batman in a different direction now. And it's easier to buy into it, I think, personally. Like, I mean, to be honest, do we need constant new Marvel movies for the next 10 years? I mean, I know like that new Batman movie is coming out, and I have to say, I'm not that interested in it. Like, I've just been through so much Batman turnover in the movies that I don't know if I can buy into another actor and another version of it. But in comics, it's a lot easier for me.
So thank you very much, Nerdy Girl Creates, for supporting the channel. We've also got Von Inc. Do y'all think independent comic publishers and new creators coming up through crowdfunding could save the industry? What's holding them back? Me personally, I think the amount of people that are aware of Kickstarter comic books, Indiegogo comic books, is limited to the amount that you have that go to their comic book store. I think the price is too high. Shipping them individually to people's houses has not been solved. It adds a great amount of expense to it. Joe, you're an independent creator. Do you think that independent publishers and crowdfunding can save the industry?
It depends on your definition of the circumstances, what saving the industry is. But in terms of what I think crowdfunding can do right now, and what we're seeing is there's a bigger trend of smaller publishers using crowdfunding to get books out that they otherwise wouldn't be able to with their bandwidth. So you're seeing publishers like
a pre-fund.
Yeah, SourcePoint Press and Scout Comics for sure have been using crowdfunding more and more.
Dynamite.
Yeah, Dynamite with a lot of variant covers and stuff like that. They're using
more.
Yeah, even more. They don't have enough in previews, but and then new creators, like, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to help new creators. It might help some when you're talking about like Scout and SourcePoint Press and some places like that. But what's the trend that seems to be bigger creators going and trying to make a bunch of money, like your, Matt Kintz, Jeff Lemire, Scott Snyder's, going there and then taking that book and then going to Image or Boom Studios and stuff like that. I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think Boom Studios is going to continue becoming a more of a big player. But sorry, someone was jumping in.
No, I was just going to say, like, unless marketing on crowdfunding can improve, like, I go into my local comic shop and I'll talk about things that happen online, and I'll talk about, hey, are you buying this crowdfunded book or that one? And so many people just aren't even aware. Like, they don't go to YouTube for their comic book news. They don't go onto Twitter. They don't go online thinking about that's where I'm going to find comics, other than maybe web comics. People seem to have an awareness of web comics, but when I'll say, like, hey, are you buying so-and-so's new crowdfunding, the book? And they'll say, like, I have no idea about that. I've never heard of it. And then for crowdfunding, the other thing is too, is like, I'd love to support every crowdfunded book that I see out there. But I think like Wes as well. Like, I live in Canada, Wes lives in the Philippines. Like, to buy these books costs me over like $65 for like 50 pages, 48 pages of story. And like, even if I have a good year, I can't justify that kind of cost when,
I got diapers.
I got to buy coffee. Yeah, I got diapers and coffee to buy.
Yeah, but
so it's hard.
But to build on that too, a successful crowdfunding campaign, for a lot of people, it's like if you have over 1,000 backers, like
That's
you're
enormous.
like, oh my god, that's impressive. If you move over 1,000 copies on the direct market, you're canceled.
Yeah,
like that's there. There has to be some sort of bridge there. But on the other hand, too, if you're crowdfunding something and you're the one running it, and you do get 10,000 backers, good luck fulfilling that one. Like that's a lot of work. And then if you didn't build that in and you need to outsource it, that's a lot of money. So
well, yeah, it's like when I go to my local brewery, they're not competing with Molson or Coors. You know, like they're their initial operation, a beer operation, and they're doing well for themselves. But I mean, are they necessarily part of the greater? Are they contributing to the greater beer industry? But that's kind of how I see crowdfunding. Like, it's still niche right now. I think it'll get bigger, though. I totally think that it's poised to grow because more and more people are moving to digital and online and looking for their content. So,
yeah, no, for sure.
All right, so we have one more super chat from Darth Bobcat. What gets people about Phase 4 is that for people who hate it all new, all different, them voting with their wallets didn't ultimately count. The normals will still go. I don't know. What do you think about that one, Pele? We all know it. You know it's going to be crap, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to make money.
No, it'll make money, but it won't make previous money. It won't. There's going to be a trimming down. And Marvel's going to see it. It's not going to be like it was before because the people that drive it, the people that, the old timers that are really excited about it before are kind of like, this wasn't very good to begin with. And you get the naysayers at the root level in the comic shops, that are going to kind of influence the ground floor of it. It's not going to go as far as it did. And I think that's what they're ignoring. They're ignoring the people who, I won't say tastemakers, I won't call them gatekeepers or anything like that, but they're the people that know this stuff best. And when they're saying, this looks like shit, this wasn't very good then, it's going to have an impact. How much of an impact? I don't know. I think it's still, like I said, I think it still will be profitable for them, but they're not going to be breaking any records with it. And that's where voting with your wallet comes in because they're going to see all that money they left on the table.
All right. So speaking of voting for your wallet, we've got the 2021 blockbuster seasons coming up. We've got all these new superhero movies coming in. We've had a couple sprinkled in here there, but finally we're getting these movies back in theaters. And between now and the end of the year, we've got Black Widow coming July 9th, Suicide Squad coming August 6th, Shang-Chi September 3rd, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, September 24th, Morbius, October 8th, The Eternals, November 5th, and Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th. So, Perch, which one of these do you think is really going to hit? Or are there any of these that you're really looking forward to not watching?
I mean, I look, I watch all kinds of crap, so I watch it all. I sat through some pretty terrible stuff over the last year because nothing was coming out. So, I mean, I'll watch all these. I think, if you're trying to predict kind of which movies are going to do best, I mean, I don't know. Eternals is going to be kind of your standard Marvel movie and profit. It's not going to make $1 billion. It's not going to go Black Panther numbers. Will it make half a billion? Probably. I
think it'll be more than Ant-Man?
I think that Marvel is in general. So there's a couple things we don't know yet, and I think we're going to see it with Black Widow a little bit, which is how much has on one side, we got people who are kind of pent up wanting to go to movies because they've been trapped for so long and they're just anxious to get out there and do that. And it's like, we haven't had a Marvel movie for a long time. So there's, in theory, pent up demand. There's also another group of people that like saw Endgame and was like, that's it. We're done. And so I'm curious where that all goes. If the group that doesn't want to hop off of Marvel, if that doesn't happen and people are still kind of along for the ride because hell, they just want to go out and see a movie, then Marvel keeps trending up. You look at the first Captain America, you look at Ant-Man, their films are slowly becoming additive. And so just playing the numbers, it would do better than Ant-Man. But what we don't know yet is if people just called it a day with Endgame. And I think to whoever made the comment earlier, I mean, the normies are going to go to this movie. The normies, the people who don't read comics, the people who are not on Twitter, which is 95% of the comic buying audience, they'll I want to go see a movie and screw it, and that's what will happen. So anyway, unfortunately I think it's a very boring picture by and large.
None of these look great to me. I have a feeling Suicide Squad might surprise people. The first movie did very well despite being awful. And James Gunn is a much better director. It's probably going to be a lot more interesting, more fun to watch.
Sure. I think Suicide Squad will make the James Gunn version will make more money than the first one based on his name. And again, this kind of pent up demand, and there's a few more celebrities in there people want to see, and they're going to make a lot of money off that shark character. It's a big talking shark. Got to buy the ticket for the talking shark guy.
But will Gail Simone? Oh, maybe it's not her. I forget.
Oh my goodness!
I hope they make a stuffy out of that shark.
Talking shark, not whale, man.
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, no, totally different.
Yeah.
Hey, I got my face on this thing.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that the Batman will probably end up being the highest grossing one of these, and if
that
it's
one's
not
next year, right?
It's in 2022. Yeah,
that's 2022. Yeah, but the ones for 2021 are.
What's Sony thinking? I know they just signed up for a Craven movie. I'm interested in the Venom movie just because the first one was interesting, but
we'll see if that movie ever actually comes out. I mean, they have contracts that they need to keep this turnstile going, but they don't necessarily need to put these things all out.
Well, Sony has a history of announcing things that never come out, especially in the Spider-Man universe, when earlier
but this one's been filmed, right?
No, Craven?
The Craven one?
No. I'm talking about the
Morbius
Venom movie.
Yeah, Morbius and Venom 2. Yeah, they're coming out, but I don't know. I can't imagine people caring about the Eternals. I just can't see it.
I didn't care before I saw the trailer, and that was enough.
And the Spider-Man one, the interesting thing, I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough. Tom Holland, despite being very attractive, is in these movies, and they're not doing as well as some of these other Marvel movies. I don't think they're really breaking $1 billion, or they're barely breaking $1 billion. They're not doing as well as the Tobey Maguire movies. I don't think it's going to go as well as people think.
I think this will be his highest grossing. They're going to bill it as his last. And again, I think this is going to be the first major kind of Marvel character to get a movie. Black Widow is not going to be that. Shang-Chi, Eternals, those aren't going to have that feel. So Spider-Man's going to be kind of the big tentpole Marvel movie of the year. I think that's probably their highest. And Suicide Squad's probably it on the DC side. And none of these are going to do as well as Thunder Force on Netflix.
Hell no. We've got Kenneth Dowling. Apparently, he just hopped onto the channel. $20 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. On the 2021 superhero movie lineup, I think Shang-Chi is a dark horse. It has that Black Panther energy. Could either work or not. Spidey 3 has me worried about the rumors of more characters. Shang-Chi's interesting, Perch.
Yeah.
Disney doesn't always get the Chinese audience the way they think they do.
No, and I mean... We'll see. I think that's still a very unpredictable market, and it's going to continue to be very unpredictable. But Shang-Chi, there's a chance that the actor who was in Shang-Chi, who was in Kim's Convenience, is a solid actor and can do quite a bit. And there's a chance it can tap into that kind of completely new world, immersive.
Well, it's like Gene Yang said. Finally, we're seeing Asian superheroes or Asian characters doing martial arts in movies. We never seen that before in the American market.
Well, I mean, he fights a dragon, so that's way to go with stereotypes there. But anyway,
we'll see on Shang-Chi. Does it feel like it's got that Black Panther energy to you, Perch?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I mean, it can. I would be shocked if it broke $1 billion, but there is a chance if they can get it out there. They can put some real threat. They can show some kind of big effects. Take some shots of him fighting that dragon. That's not a porn reference, by the way. It's just he fights an actual dragon. There's possibility.
Perch, this is a family show. What are you doing to me?
Sorry, children.
But yeah, I mean, there's a slight chance, I think, that maybe there'll be some synergy between like your Marvel fans who are going to see all those movies, and then people who've desperately been wanting to see like a kung fu type film that might add to it.
Movies.
I do too, but so I think it has that potential to maybe merge a couple of audiences that don't normally go to Marvel movies to maybe push it over $1 billion. But you know,
just think if somebody had a brain and they would have integrated Iron Fist with this and pulled in the TV people, but you know, of course they wouldn't do that.
That's waiting for Spider-Man 3. We've got Angel Smith with the clarification. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Spider-Man Far From Home is the first Spider-Man movie to break $1 billion, and the highest Maguire movie was roughly $750 million. But that was also like 25 years ago.
I'm not sure if that's true. I've looked into this, and that doesn't sound true for Maguire never breaking $1 billion. But
I don't think it did.
I thought Maguire's did. I think it was $900 and something million. It wasn't quite $1 billion. Like Far From Home was 1.13 billion worldwide, and Homecoming was 880 million. So the movie is actually going up. Like I would say, for me personally, I think the next Spider-Man movie of all these upcoming movies, Spider-Man is going to be the one that makes the most. Like
Spider-Man 3 did almost 900 million.
Yeah. And the highest grossing was, and I don't know if we're getting into Andrew Garfield Spider-Man's, but Far From Home was the biggest international.
But those are like 25 years ago. Those are.
Well, they also didn't have that Marvel machine making movies quite yet. Also, like I'm hot for another superhero movie, and it doesn't matter if Sony's putting it out.
Yeah. Like I don't think we're seeing the end of Tom Holland's run, honestly. Like I do think that they're going to fast track Miles Morales coming into the MCU because that's just the direction of the MCU in general with new characters and diversity. But I think they have something in Tom Holland, and he's still young. He's still playing. They've got a lot of mileage with him, and I'm sure
somebody's got to replace Iron Man.
No, they'll come to a deal. He's doing the right thing. He's basically like, I guess I'm done, guys. If only there was a big financial incentive for me to stay. But I guess I'm gonna have to go do this other movie with the girl from Star Wars. We'll try that one, and he'll write him a check.
I think you'll see Spider-Man sprinkled into other. I think you'll see like Tom Holland's Peter Parker sprinkled into the other movies versus him getting his own Spider-Man stories. I kind of see him as the Robert Downey Jr. a bit right now because he's the most likable character. Whether you think he's like accurate to the comics, I mean, you can argue that this is not Spider-Man.
When I saw Endgame, the biggest pop was Spider-Man returning, and then Tony and Spider-Man hugging.
Oh yeah,
all the end stuff.
Yeah,
that and Cap with the hammer.
I like the movies, and I like Tom Holland, but I think Spider-Man sucks being this tied to the greater MCU.
Iron Boy?
Having Iron Man be so tied, I hate it. I think it's terrible.
He's got an accent. He's got the New York accent finally.
No, I mean that's fine, and he's got like he looks great, but again, it's just like I hate how they handle it, and I cannot wait for Spider-Man to not be in the future not dealt with in the MCU. I think the MCU you're going to keep getting more and more people coming out talking about how much a lot of what they do sucks. Kind of like what happened with the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where it took a while. But even people now are finally saying, Force Awakens also wasn't that great. But if you tried to say that in 2015, no.
You get a lot of pushback.
You could not. But now it's kind of like everyone's like, oh, yeah, actually wasn't that good.
They went back and watched it again. Yeah. It's like they're still riding the buzz from the movie theater. That lasted for a couple years for some people. I loved it for like a year. And then I watched it on Blu-ray. And I was like, this wasn't anywhere as good as I remember it being.
with Force Awakens, like, I mean, yeah, we can look back on it now, and it's
all right, guys. We've got an entire Star Wars segment at the end of the show.
Sorry.
All right, we're talking Marvel movies. We got Kenneth Dowling saying Spider-Man Far From Home made over $1 billion. The MCU Spider-Man movies are critically acclaimed and F Ta-Nehisi Coates. Well, thank you for contributing to the show. Now, does anyone have anything else to say about the upcoming movie slate? And not the greatest selection ever, but we're testing the waters to see how comfortable people are to go back to movies.
Well, John Cena. That's what I'm going to say.
People just need to understand that in the history of these movies, you rarely have a cliff. You have slow build up, you have slow build down. So I see people from time to time like, it's all dead. They're going to all lose money from now on. It's not going to work that way. We may start to see a decline. That's why watching these first couple movies is going to be interesting. But it's not going to be like anyone kind of, for whatever reason, hoping that all these movies tank in the next 2 months. It's not going to happen.
Black Widow's going to be weird because we know she's dead.
Black Widow needs to deliver one hell of an after credits end thing to make it relevant. If it's just but this is the testing the waters back into the theater fully for them. So we'll see.
Well, can I tell you what my theory for Black Widow is? I think Black Widow is Taskmaster. I think it's a clone, and that's how we're going to get her back into the MCU.
That would be insane, but let's see. We'll see.
We've got Just a Normie chiming in. Guys, I'm a normie. You don't say so. I don't know comics. I am so done with the MCU. It was over with Endgame, and I flat out done. Why? Because I have no desire. That was a big investment that people had to make, Pele, to get through the entire MCU. And to ask people to start at the beginning point to get through another 22 movie epic, to get a new Avengers team and finally get to this big villain that's probably going to be Doctor Doom or somebody. It's like 10 years, 17 years to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fatigue out there, but I don't think it's movie fatigue as much as it is kind of like what we see in comics with event fatigue. Yeah. And it's like, we're going to be building up to this. I just want to watch something that's really fun. Yeah. And you bring people along the way with the stuff that's really fun, and then you kind of wrap it up and put a little bow on it. If you're building up from the beginning, like, it's going to be big, 30/30 is going to be the year, and it's like, really? That's 9 years from now.
Phase 8. It's all going to come together in Phase 8.
Yeah, let's just kind of take this one at a time, and let's have some fun movies. And as long as they keep it that way, that's fine. But I don't know if they will. So, I'm seeing a lot of there's dross. Most of the movies that are going to be out now from Marvel are dross, and there's only 3 that I'm even vaguely interested in. And I'm hearing that a lot from customers. Walk in, they're like, this is not going to be the same, is it? And I was like, no, it's not.
All right, Joe, I'm going to give you the final word, and then we're moving to the next topic. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I hope this is all a big lead up for a few phases to get to the Red Ghost and his mutant apes.
That would be ideal. All right, well, let's get to the next topic. We are going to talk about our favorite modern comic book writers. Everyone probably knows, if you've been watching the channel, my favorite comic book writer is Robert Venditti. I think he's bulletproof. He's like Jeff Johns, but he's got more things. He's got brighter days ahead of him. I think Jeff Johns' best works are probably behind him at this point. He's going to have a couple of hits here and there, but he's done so much work at this point. I think Venditti's got places to go. Pele, who do you think is the best writer in modern comics right now? And I'm going to go on a pee break.
Holy crap, man! Who's the best writer in comics today?
Who's your favorite?
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Oh yes. That hands down. No. I would probably say consistency-wise, it's Cates. I know that Donny Cates is just consistent. If you're reading a story by Cates, you're reading a series by Cates, it's going to be consistently good, and you're going to get some curveballs, and it's going to be exciting because customers are going to be like, I got to get this key from this appearance. The character's only appeared in 2 comics, and I've got to go find it, and people do that kind of shit, and it gets people bargain bin dumpster diving, looking for those keys, and that's an excitement in the shop. And so I'm going to say consistency. In terms of consistency, it's Donny Cates. What do you think, Perch?
For me right now, it's Robert Kirkman. I think he's now, that may be a cheat because he's not doing as much active work right now, but I still, that's the guy I think who builds a lot of worlds that are fun to read and get translated well. And I'm just looking at a giant list. That's probably who my vote would go to right now, unless we're going to go to Oda over in Japan, in which case you can't beat Oda.
Yeah.
What do you?
I'm gonna throw out a little bit of a curveball here. I'm gonna throw out what is it that W. Maxwell Prince from Ice Cream Man and Ha Ha, I'm gonna say this in that he handles. He's got a very strong grasp of the medium with the one and done storytelling, and even though the most recent issue of Ha Ha I thought was a total dud and I was disappointed with. Other than that, and some other like duds here and there, he's put out a lot of really solid, interesting one and done comics, and shows such a powerful grasp of the medium that you could potentially see him picked and put into all sorts of books, and you would have some level of confidence because of his understanding of the medium and being able to tackle different kinds of stories and genres.
What do you think, Uel?
Well, I saw somebody in the comments say new writer, but this says modern writer. So
yeah.
Oh, that changes.
So I'm just, I just want to be a little. If I say Grant Morrison, I'm not saying a new writer.
Right.
But I'm going to say somebody other than him, even though he is number one on my list. I personally like Joshua Williamson a lot, and I do believe he's doing Robin right now, and it's got some really good artwork. And anytime he does something, I always find it to be, for the most part, a real solid story, unless it's one of those like crossover events. And he also did one of the last Vertigo miniseries called Deathbed, and I really like that. Right. And I know a lot of people have Riley Rossmo hate. You're wrong, but that's okay. I'm joking.
He's got a style.
He's got a style, and if you can get past that, or if you enjoy it, then Deathbed is a fantastic miniseries. And I'll say Joshua Williamson, just so it's not run of the mill people. I guess we got one left.
Yeah, we do. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm gonna go with run of the mill, and I'm gonna go with Chip Zdarsky.
He crossed my mind.
It's weird because like my favorite books, like my favorite writer isn't like the writer of my favorite books. Let's say like Invincible is my favorite book from the last 20 years. I actually reread it, but when it comes to like Pele, you were talking about consistency. For me, it's like Chip Zdarsky. Like he can. What I like is that he started off kind of rough at Marvel. I mean, his Spider-Man stuff started off really shaky, but then it seemed like he either took criticism or, people gave him some notes, and then all of a sudden his work started going like this. And what I like about him is that I can pick up his book and I can immediately buy into what's going on. Like I understand who the characters are, I understand the situation, the drama, and then he writes interesting action too. Like I just find that he's a simple writer. Like I think that's what it is. It's simple. Like it's almost like TV in a sense. Like a lot of people compare Daredevil, the new series that he's writing, to the Daredevil TV show, and I haven't traditionally been a huge Daredevil fan, but I bought into this book really like right away when I started reading it.
I think that if people were like, "Oh, how could you say Cates?" Cates, I was talking about in terms of consistency. Series in, series out. It's good. Some of the best moments that I've had in the last 3 or 4 years reading comics, Cates just or those best wow moments. They're reading Cates books, and it was like, holy shit, he really did that. Oh my God, that's incredible. It's like, wow, I've always wanted to see this, and that's was during Cates books. If I have to say somebody that's my favorite, just favorite, what the hell's going on? Somebody getting picked up with felony charges?
That's not me. No.
I'm good here. I would have thought that'd be me.
Philip Kennedy Johnson probably is just like, wow, holy shit. This guy is really good. He's got talent. He's going places. I would have to say him.
Some people are saying in the chat, or I saw Lano mention Kari Andrews. I think that guy is a potential breakout. He does great work, but I think this next year is going to be really, really powerful for him.
Yeah, I'll wait for him and Joe Corallo to see how their series go before I give them props.
That's fair, but I'd also throw in an honorable mention to someone as well as Mariko Tamaki. For all the criticism people had when she was first starting out in superhero comics. I was a fan of hers from the indie stuff she was doing. But the past year, stuff like Wonder Woman and Detective Comics were both books that people were like, oh no, she's not gonna, and then I'm not saying everyone was like, this is the greatest interpretation of Wonder Woman or the best Detective Comics run ever, but she's slowly winning people over.
They're readable now. I think her books are really readable now. They're digestible now. Where before, I think it was like, oh god.
And there's a decent amount of people who are enjoying the current run on Detective now more than the main Batman run and things like that. Like they're different enough. Like I really do think she's got a stronger grasp and interest in the superhero comics, and I think it's worth mentioning.
Antonio Rochillo says, I miss Warren Ellis. He's probably going to have to take a break before he comes back. I think he's still doing Castlevania, potentially. But yeah, with the things that happened to him, that was unfortunate.
I think we'll see Warren Ellis sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he'll have something. It's already been about a year.
Yeah, it's been about 1 year. And yes, I think we'll hear something within the next 2 weeks.
Peter David doesn't get enough love right now, Perch. Everything he does at Marvel right now is good.
Yeah, Peter David's is doing real good. Garth Ennis, here, is another good pick. There's a lot of good. There are lots of good writers. It's one of the reasons why I always get a little annoyed when people are like, all the comics suck. It's like, no, there's, as we see, there's plenty of names people are coming up with that do great work. They're out there.
There's definitely some diversity here. We've got Eric O'Sullivan. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. $15. That's a very gracious of you. Gratitude to Wes and the panel. You really keep me in the game. As a 40-year-old lifelong comic reader, I can't fathom spending any money to DC or Marvel. So here's the cover price for a few funny books plus. Well, thank you very much. If you watch the channel, there's certainly some things at Marvel and DC worth your time right now. I think it feels like DC kind of just reset everything, but Nightwing's in a good place. I know a lot of people are enjoying the Batman stuff, but if you like Daredevil, it's a good time to be a Daredevil fan.
What about are you guys reading Beta Ray Bill by Daniel Warren Johnson?
I love it, Beta Ray Bill.
That's good.
That guy just immerses you in that world. I wasn't a huge Beta Ray Bill fan, but he writes in a way that just sucks me right into that story that he's telling, and the art that he's doing is next level.
It makes me regret not waiting and reading the whole thing at once.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it's so good. I can't believe there's a ping pong table scene, and it's so action packed.
It's also got some good funny moments. Like Scourge is hilarious.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Totally.
Daniel Warren Johnson and Beta Ray Bill and other stuff is it's given me flashbacks when I discovered Paul Pope years and years ago.
Oh yeah.
And the kind of art and the kind of thing he's going for, because I remember when I got into Paul Pope probably a decade or so ago now, that was one of those things where I was just like, oh my god, give me those books. What else did he do? I got to pick it up, and I feel the same way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a lot of customers that are like, that sucks. That looks ugly. That's and I remember back in the day when, if you remember, Silver Surfer 1 and 2 and Mobius did this books, and a lot of people were going, "Oh, that sucks. That's awful." And now it's like, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" And it's starting to really bite people with the Beta Ray Bill, and it's like, this is like that, isn't it? Like, yeah.
That two-page spread that he drew of the interior of Scuttlebutt, the amount of work that went into that is insane. And he puts I mean, you take a look at a lot of the comics now, and these guys are working on their iPad and they're kind of cranking them out. Like, that was a labor of love for just those 2 pages.
Absolutely. We've also got, and thank you to Eric O'Sullivan very much for supporting the channel.
Yes.
Wolfstein 3D, longtime Warhammer and Marvel sci-fi fan. I have to pick Dan Abnett. Now, that is an underrated writer.
Mhm.
Perch, I am aggrieved that he is not writing a story in this Aquaman 80th anniversary.
Yeah, I think there's a backstory there, but yeah, we won't go into rumors, but I believe there's a backstory there.
Man, if you like Alien, and if you go read Dan Abnett's, I think it's like 19 issues. It's Alien, Predator, and Prometheus. It's 4 miniseries, and then there's a final issue, like tie them all together. It's absolutely fantastic, and he does not get enough love. We've also got, and thank you to Wolfstein 3D. We've got Lane Kramer. For me, it used to be Tom King for his Batman. I love 90% of it. Vision, Mr. Miracle, but since Heroes in Crisis, it's been crash and burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's painful to watch.
What can you say?
Uel, what happened to Tom King? He used to be a contender.
He used to be somebody.
Tom King is one note, that's why. And yeah, what are you gonna do?
You can only do your one trick. It's like the M. Night Shyamalan syndrome.
Heroes in Crisis Heroes in Crisis hurt DC so much. I think we're still not even aware of the impact that series has had on the DC comics.
Hasn't seemed to hurt Clay Mann. He seems to be doing just fine.
Well, you draw like that.
Yeah.
But just customers are like, that series soured so many customers. It's shocking.
Yeah,
but you do that, and what was it? Well, what you do is you just give more characters swords. You know, like you give Supergirl 2 swords. That's how you do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
and
make a series about it with X.
Thank you very much, Lane Craner. We've also got Kenneth Dowling with the $50 super chat.
Boom.
My goodness, thank you so much. Very generous supporting the channel. I'm beginning to enjoy Chip Zdarsky. Donny Cates is a great event writer. Probably my favorite modern writer is Scott Snyder. Because he wrote Court of Owls, my favorite Batman story.
Yeah.
His smaller follow-ups are great, but he struggles with events, kind of the opposite of Cates. That's kind of weird, Perch, because I feel like Cates is like the second coming of Snyder in some ways.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. It could be. The thing with Cates, we don't have a lot of track record. We have some, but people forget he's a fairly modern, very much modern writer. He's done some work, but
Thanos Wins was kind of his breakout. That was only like 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, at Marvel, sure, but there's where Cates goes over the next 4 years is going to be very interesting to see, and I think that will kind of establish a lot. He's got the ability, but there's a lot of, he's got new projects coming out. Certainly Marvel's high on him in certain levels. I think he also really wanted to do something independent. I don't know if crossover has worked out the way he hoped, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him over the next 5 years.
I really like Scott Snyder on those smaller stories like Batman the Black Mirror. While quite horrific, if you think about what some of the things that are implied there, is a great story. But I feel like he was always trying to outdo himself. Like after Dark Knight's Metal, you got to go bigger, bigger, bigger. And I think that might be his undoing, and just kind of going back to his roots and just telling like a terrifying story.
Yeah, some of Scott Snyder's best work, like you said, is that smaller stuff. He did, I can't remember what the name of it is, but over at Image, he did like a kind of vampire, like a 1930s vampire story. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool. And he did some like Vertigo miniseries. I can't remember what that one was either right now. But
Witches.
And he's done Witches.
The Wake was the one.
Thank you. Yeah. He did Witches, Wake, and then it's the other one I can't think of.
American Vampire?
No, but that one also. So those are the things he's like, he really kind of like cut his teeth on, and those were the ones that and then he got the Batman gig, and Perch and I were talking about Greg Capullo on Court of Owls. And how people up front were kind of thinking, like, this is that Spawn artist. This is going to suck. And Snyder and Capullo, oh, my God, they're like gods of DC right now.
Dream team.
Yeah, a dream team for sure. And now they're, kind of playing their trade elsewhere again.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
The only thing about Court of Owls, though, that sticks out to me, and I remember this, it's been so long since I've read it, because I was reading it at the time, but I think it was the second issue we got introduced to like the mayor character, and it was like, oh, that's the bad guy.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious.
He was drawn in a way where it's like, oh, he's bigger than Bruce Wayne. That's the bad guy. And so that was like the only real complaint.
Yeah. But it was so. I think it was kind of revolutionary in a way, that series. It just came on, and it was like everybody was expecting it, but not, and it took people by surprise just how expansive that a story could be. I think that's one of the. That's the way I'll say it. Nobody expected the movie the story could be as expansive for a Batman story as it could be, and that kind of blew everybody's expectations out of the water.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Kenneth Dowling, very generous. This is a Pele super chat here from Dark Admiral Chair. Bronze Age Hunt update, just got a down payment on a very fine copy of Giant Size Chillers #1.
Awesome.
And I'm eyeing a very fine copy of Giant Size Creatures #1.
Fantastic. Great buys. Giant Size Chillers, gotta love that Lilith cover. It's, those great books really are. I think that they're seriously undervalued, underappreciated right now. And wouldn't be surprised to see them up there in the upper 3 digits, lower 4 digits sometime in the future.
I want to give an update.
Yeah.
Pele and myself and Uel and Doc and maybe some other guests, we're going to start a comic book collecting 1-hour show weekly. It'll be here. It'll be on the podcast. We're going to debut it next Saturday instead of the Comics Aficionados, because I'm going to be in the hospital with my wife for having a baby. So we're going to record that this weekend. We're going to debut the show in the place of the Comics Aficionados. And then after that, you'll get both shows every weekend. At least that's the plan coming out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that one out.
Yeah. So come see us. It's slabbed and raw. And I'm not going to tell you who is slabbed and who is raw. But it's we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We're going to have some really interesting topics this week. One of them's kind of, going to catch you by surprise. But we're going to talk about what's hot, what's not, what you should buy, what you should stay the hell away from. And you need to catch that.
And whether or not you really need that Marvel stamp in your comic after all.
Good point. Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see that one debuting right here next weekend. We had such a good response to the 30-minute video we did. So let's move on to the next topic. I hope everyone got to talk about their favorite creators. Let's talk about, is there too much Batman? I know we've got Josh McDonald is in the chats right now. I did a State of the Batman comic universe. And that was before they announced all the new Batman series. And it sounds like there's going to be even more Batman coming out. I think, it was Perch that joined me on the channel. We talked about, are we reaching, critical mass as far as Batman? I know, Uel, your previous shop location, you were more of a trade shop. Mm-hmm. And now with your new location, you're more of a floppy shop, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
Batman moves units. Are you happy that there's so much Batman? It's almost encapsulating half the line of DC Comics right now.
Oh, man, ever since I've started joining you on the show, I think one of the first things I said was there's too many Batman, and it was so few in comparison to now. I think there's too much. It feels like they're squeezing that orange as much as they possibly can, get the last amount of juice out of it, because we know DC's ending soon, so...
when has DC ever done that?
I think it's this month.
They've got 2 more days, yeah.
They might be able to get a little bit of legs out there. They might have some legs still, but it's imminent. It's
squeeze the lemon till the juice runs down your leg. Yeah.
Exactly.
You paint the picture.
Too much Batman. I mean,
I gotta love Led Zeppelin. Come on.
The thing that's weird about Batman, to me as a kid, that was the lesser title growing up. And seeing how he's become the way he is now, with, people come in the store, oh, I love Batman. Usually they like the villains more. Oh, really, you like the Joker, that type of stuff. But, there's just too much Batman. Again, if everything was top-notch 100% all the way through, it's still, you couldn't sell all of it. So, what are you doing, DC? Seriously? Just make it brave and the bold.
We've got a couple of super chats. This is from Kenneth Dowling. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Speaking of writers, where's Brian Hill? I read his Killmonger and it was great, and I read his Batman books, including Batman and the Outsiders. Good stuff. What is he doing lately? Right now, he has a series at AWA. I believe it's a miniseries called Chariot. It's kind of got like a Knight Rider and more stuff kind of feel to it. Oh. And I think it wasn't this week. Maybe it was the week before. There was a Far Cry comic that debuted. I know Perch, you talk to Brian every once in a while. Has he got any more projects besides those two?
Yeah, there's some more coming. I don't think they're announced yet, but some more stuff's coming out.
So there is new Brian Hill if you are a fan of his at multiple publishers right now. Which one would you suggest, Perch, between those two?
I think his AWA book is really good. I would check
it out.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you very much. And Kenneth is also very happy there's too much Batman. And thank you to SuperCam1721 for the $49.99 super chat. Very generous. Very, very much appreciated. I've been saying for years that Batman fatigue was real. I like the character. But the way DC Warner Brothers has been pushing Batman for the last decade is like WWE pushing John Cena. Roman Reigns and Charlotte down our throats. Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. I don't know, Uel, I hate to throw it back to you, but you are the WWE connoisseur of the channel. Is this an apt comparison?
Yeah, I think it is. So WWE is trying to create a star so that people will care about it for 5, 10, or 15 years. And that's one thing. But Batman, they already have that success with the character. And now they're trying to get those last years of Cena, Roman Reigns, and Charlotte out before they can't use it anymore. I don't know if like Batman's ever going to be like their bottom selling character or like it was when I was growing up. But you figure someone's going to come in from outside that normally doesn't know a thing about comic books, and they want to get a Batman book, and you can start them off with something that's from a different, like this Legend of the Dark Knight, it doesn't tie in anything. So even if it says issue 5, it's not that big a deal. Whereas the regular series, there's 100 issues, and it's big of a part of a big story, and it's hard for someone new to get into it. But we're looking at like people in the comic store all the time, and it's just Batman for days all the time.
And there's a lot of, and the demand is still high. People are still buying it. It's just that they're becoming more discerning lately. And it's like just because it has Batman on it doesn't mean they just automatically grab it. And but it's not to say that it's he's taken a hit. It's just a little wallet fatigue too.
He doesn't sell like he used to.
Not really.
In his
but
main
it still
title.
does.
But it still does. Yes, it's still one of my number one books all the way.
Perch, is that a danger of having so many Batman titles that maybe have a completionist and then they feel overwhelmed? They can no longer have a complete collection, so maybe they step back and don't come back for all the titles, or for most of them.
Oversaturation is a problem. I don't know that it's necessarily a collector problem. It can be, but collectors can be pushed pretty hard. I mean, your bigger problem is you start to lose track of what you're pushing and marketing where, and so you just get confusion at the shelves, and stores kind of start to nope out a little bit with just too much. I think we're seeing that with the X office right now with a lot of what they're doing, and I think Batman, I mean, you are seeing diminishing returns. You see some of these books are not being ordered as high as others, like Uel saying. So, I mean, there's going to the well too much, and that's kind of what we've got here.
Yeah, and there's so many other characters that DC has, and by not using them, it's a problem. It's like you already own this IP, figure out ways to monetize it, or else if people check out on Batman, you're going to have all this year's worth of work to do to get people to care about some of these other properties.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. If you don't invest in some other characters, you're never going to have a next Batman. You're just going to have the one character. And thank you very much to SuperCam so much for supporting the channel. You guys have no idea how much this means to me. We got some crazy stuff coming up over the next few weeks, and from my heart, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we also have
awesome.
Darth Bobcat. This is dangerous for DC. Batman is vital. A bat crash could devastate the whole publishing arm, maybe even hurt HBO and the movie efforts. Is that that's got to be like the worst case scenario, right, Pele?
It really is. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, he's right. You know, if this really, really goes down badly, you know, it's going to hurt DC in extreme ways, especially now that they've just changed hands. You know, they're kind of like, you know, the new owners going, okay, what are you going to do for me? And you know, we got billions in you. You know, you're the poster boy for this. How are you going to pay us back? And I don't know. I hope it goes well. I hope that the movie just, you know, beats my expectations. But, you know, at the same time, I've got strong reservations about this movie coming up and a lot of the new Batman projects. And, you know, I don't think it's being handled in the way it should be handled. I don't think that the people in charge really understand the franchise the way that others do. And, you know, we'll have to see, but I'm not happy with the direction I'm seeing. I'll just put it that way.
So speaking of things I am happy with, Lane Kramer brings up a good point. Look at Batman Reptilian. All-star creators on it. We got Garth Ennis writing, Liam Sharp illustrating. Should sell between $40 and $60K at $7 a piece because it is DC Black Label. Buried in titles, new characters. Buried in titles, new characters like Yara 4 cannot be built up. Joe, that is a problem. Like, Batman Reptilian should feel special. It just feels like something that's happening right now. And then, what about the Yara gang? This is bullshit.
Well, they're putting too many things out. That's just what it is. Yeah. It's like you can't do this. It's a Batman Reptilian. Then there's the Suicide Squad Get Joker. There's you're dragging out Adam Kubert to do Batman the Detective. Like all these things, they're not
Pennyworth #1.
Mm-hmm.
They're not spreading out their special books. These are books that should be designed in a way where it's like, this is a special moment that we should be putting a lot of attention on, and instead it's just throwing a lot of shit on the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's a problem. And instead of getting a massive success that they can make this evergreen sort of trade out of, they're going to undercut their own sales and push themselves into obscurity in a way that isn't going to make up for the amount of money they probably paid to make these books with top creatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right.
Yep. And we've got Wolfstein 3D with the €549. Looking at the Magistrate storyline, how often can you retell a variant of the same story you told numerous times before? Old man Greg, how many times can we go to this? Or I'm sorry, old man David, how many times can we go to the well here? How many times can can Gotham be taken over?
Well, so far you can do it for 80 years plus, and it seems to work out fine. But
what a shithole city! I tell you, my God.
I know, right? This is kind of my problem with weekly comics or monthly comics. Like, I prefer that, like you said just a few seconds ago, 3 Jokers. I love Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight series. I love Batman stories that I can just kind of like jump into. I understand enough of the Batman lore, and I can jump into these stories that they're playing with Batman in different ways. Like right now, if I was to say to my kid, like, hey, do you want to read Batman right now? And he'd say like, yeah, I know Batman. There's Batman, Robin, and Alfred, and Commissioner Gordon. And then I'd say to him, well, no. I mean, Batman's not a billionaire anymore. There's something called the Magistrate. Jim Gordon's retired, and Alfred's dead. You know, the most important character in Batman history. He's dead. We don't need him anymore. And I feel like the main book almost feels like an Elseworld story. Like the things that are happening in the run right now, for me, could be happening in an Elseworld story, and I could buy into it a bit more. Like, I feel like the status quo needs to exist in the book for just because Batman is so popular in pop culture. And when you're a new reader, you come on and you don't understand what's going on, it's easy to check out.
Well, I've talked to some DC people, some one executive in particular that I know, low level guy. You know, I'm not talking about big brass. But they're trying to find a way to put that genie. They tried to find a way to put that genie back in the bottle with Alfred's death, And they're like, that was such a boneheaded, stupid thing. And they said they could have put him in a coma. They could have, all this other kind of stuff. And just the Tom King killing him off was just,
Technically, Tom King did not want to kill him off. It was the editors that told him he had to.
But yeah.
It's crazy.
But anyway, it's still a stupid thing. And they were like, oh, now the regret is high. The regret is high. So
well, see, that's the thing with like these comics. Like I'm willing to kind of go on the journey for a while, but I'm always expecting the status quo to come back. Like, so a lot of people hate what Dan Slott did with Superior Spider-Man because they hated that Doc Ock was Spider-Man. But in my head, I kind of knew Peter Parker's going to come back one day, and we won't have to live through this. And the problem now is like you've killed Alfred, and Alfred is such a grounded character that it's going to seem strange to bring him back in some kind of magical way. And I kind of feel like it kind of destroys the whole mythology of Batman in a sense. That's kind of how I feel about it.
So thank you to Wolfstein 3D. Also, thank you to Kenneth Dowling. All joking aside, even as a fan of Batman, there is an oversaturation by DC of the character. DC should invest in their other heroes. For me, Batman is not a superhero. He's one of the greatest characters of all fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yep.
And hopefully that new movie is good. I mean, I understand that they want to have these extra books for cross marketing with the movies, but I don't know whether you want to have this many different Batman things going on at one specific time.
Certainly,
it's overwhelming.
It's hard for anyone to know what's associated with the movie when you have so much stuff.
It kind of feels like they're going like to me. It just feels like they're kind of going like, "Oh, you don't like that take on Batman? Well, here's another take on Batman, or here's another take on Batman." And they're trying to connect with anybody and everybody's tastes all at one time. And when you do that, you don't really appeal to anybody. So,
very, very good points. We've got You Murdered That Guy from up in Canada with the
how's it going, buddy?
Canadian super chat. Wes, I think you should get Duke Shanghala, Comic Book Clubhouse, on your show. He has a lot of knowledge of comic book publishing history. In fact, I've had him on the show multiple times. I believe he's been on the panel twice. He was supposed to make a third appearance a few weeks back, but he had some technical difficulties. But Duke will definitely be back on the channel. Love that guy. And he has a great channel, especially if you like comic book collecting. He does a lot of unboxings. He does a lot of videos on how to grade comics. And he's definitely got some good content if you have not checked it out.
He would be a really great guest for Slabbed and Raw. So
absolutely,
we'll talk to him.
He was born for that.
Yeah.
So thank you to that guy. We got Lane Kramer. Sorry, off topic. Wes brought me to it. DC has tons of books at $6 to $7 per issue now. Will Marvel hit this price for Penguin in October? See, the $7 books for the most part are DC Black Label. They're Prestige Plus format, so they're a little bit bigger. But I don't know, Perch, when do you think Marvel will get to the $6, $7 price point for a lot of their comics? We're seeing that, like Heroes Reborn, I think, was $6 to begin with.
I think with the Penguin Random House deal, you'll see a lot more comics move up into that territory. So I would say by the end of the year.
Man, that is sooner than I thought you were going to say, sir.
So a big December for us is what you're saying.
There you go.
Very good question. Thank you, Lane. We've got Tevye Smoka. What are other comics? What other characters they need to push to? Well, they need to push a lot of characters. Just some of the ones that bumped in my head. Like, where's Green Arrow? He feels like he's supposed to be important. I know he's like a little part in Justice League, but he hasn't had a solo title in like 3 years now. What the hell?
Well, it doesn't sell that well.
Not really.
That's the reason. And I know. Go for it, Pele. You tell him.
It's just
tell them all.
God,
I love Green Arrow.
Yeah, he's one of those characters that you like him, but you like him with other things. You know, you like him when he's bouncing stuff off of Green Lantern. That's fantastic. When he's a really great counterbalancing character. He's a really great also character. When he's solo, it's just like, okay, he's got a bow. He's kind of cool, and he's got some really interesting takes on stuff. But, it's just, I don't know. There's not a lot of range as far as that character has been shown in quite some time. And it's just, it doesn't sell. It just does not sell. So we haven't had, go ahead, man.
I feel like DC is really close to what I've been hankering for a while. It's like Get me Batman, like Urban Legends. You get all these Gotham characters.
Oh yeah.
The problem is they do another one, and what we need is more of those other characters. Something where I can see Amethyst in, or somewhere where I can see Green Arrow, or a different Green Lantern. And maybe like a World of DC they could call it, or World's Finest, or whatever.
Okay, Doc's going to be saying anthology books don't sell.
They don't, but
they don't put asses in seats.
That's right. No asses, no seats.
Yeah, but hold on now. Okay, so in a collector's market, things like Dark Horse Presents are actually sought after because of first appearances of characters.
True.
And since people are hot for that kind of stuff right now, just put new characters in these things, there are ways to get people to care about an anthology for half a minute. And in that time, hopefully you have other characters in there that maybe are getting focused instead of all the multiple Batman books out there.
Agreed.
This is for Joe. Kenneth Dowling, thank you so much. A couple weeks ago, Thinking Critical had a great discussion on race, gender swapping, iconic white superheroes, Black Superman, Miles Morales. Would love your take on it, and others can chime in. What's your take on that, Joe?
I mean, it's all tough because at the end of the day, if the character's so iconic that they're a pop culture sort of icon that people who are unfamiliar with the source material know, it's always going to be like an other. Like,
did you see? Was it Nydia Okafor chiming in on that? She was not in favor of it at all.
Yeah, there are so many characters to build up and do other things with. I think you saw a lot of people start talking about like why not do a static, like push a static movie more,
right.
Push like things like
right.
that. I mean,
the people that have more skin in the game, I'm kind of a little bit of a the people that have more skin in the game are like, make our heroes. Make heroes for us, make something that really speaks to us. Don't just retread somebody else's stuff. And then you have the other people that are going, yeah, leave our heroes alone. This is a cultural icon. You should leave it alone. And then you've got the activist white guys over here that are really ones pushing, redoing characters and stuff like that. And I think that they're sticking their nose in where probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about. It's like I'd rather see people just investing the money and putting it into lifting up these other characters.
Absolutely.
There are certain characters and certain things where it is more of a mantle, so it really doesn't matter as much.
Mm-hmm. Green Lantern, stuff like that.
Sure, yeah, like there's characters like that, but so much of, I think, the problem and the animosity also comes from the conversation around it. I don't think people would maybe get as heated or annoyed if the way a lot of this stuff is marketed is, like finally we're going to get a Black Superman or something like that. Or finally there's this kind of hero when all of these things have existed for decades and decades. I think that irritates people. I think that's part of where a lot of the problems come from. And yeah,
they had such an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, it's going to be a Black Superman," and I was excited for about half a beat there. And people at the shop were excited. We're like, "We're going to get to see Calvin Ellis."
Sure.
I was like, "This is going to be pretty cool." They're going to bring they're going to get a different take on this. And even the most dyed-in-the-wool Superman fans are going, "Yeah, I like that character. I want to see more of that. I want to see Calvin Ellis, or who was the other one that they had that." The other Black Superman.
There was Icon and Rocket.
Val.
So, Icon. Yeah, Val. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, okay, that could be interesting too. But a lot of Calvin Ellis excitement, and it's like, no, it's going to be a Black Clark Kent, and everybody went, boo. We've seen this before. This sucks. And even my customers of color were saying, why would they do that? It's just so pandering. It sucks. So it's okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's just to wrap it up, I mean, ultimately, if it's a good movie or a good show or whatever, people won't care. I don't think. I remember there being rumors like years and years ago. This might have even been in the '90s or the early 2000s of doing a Superman movie with like Will Smith and like Morgan Freeman as the Jor-El character and stuff like that, and that would have been fine. I mean, that would have been people probably would have been interested in that. It's a matter of I think people don't care as much if it's done well, if there's a lot of people like in it, if it's just a straight up good story. I don't think people would be as annoyed about. I think what people get annoyed about is when they do something where they're making it a big deal, like they're doing us a favor. But by doing it, I think that's what rubs people the wrong way.
Very good points. We've also got Nightmare X123. Thank you for supporting the channel. Coates, that would be Ta-Nehisi Coates, is a garbage writer. It's insulting they have him on Superman. I expect another race baiting trash fire like his Black Panther run. We shall see. Very good points. Let's move on to the next topic. We've got a few more to get through. We'll go as fast as we can. Speaking of being annoyed, we got Superman versus Lobo, which in theory sounds like a great book. I am annoyed, Pele, that it's $7 and it's Tim Seeley on a DC Black Label book. When did Black Label just become overpriced? Like, should I be on a Black Label book? What the hell?
No, not for this. No, this looks like you could smell this from a mile away. This is gonna, it's just I'm not fond of Tim Seeley anyway, so it's like, oh, this is okay.
Tim Seeley's kind of one of those guys for me, also. Like, he just, for some reason, he's just like death to a series.
I know. It's just like, it's like.
TMT Batman was cool.
I'm talking about it as a retailer, though, and I want everybody to know that something being good and something selling are two different things when I'm talking.
Yeah, it's just, it's like, it just seems like whenever he's almost like comic cancer in a lot of ways. It's like, this doesn't sell. This is like, something that a critic would really like, or, people that are, it has a very niche type audience there, but it will sell because, it is Superman versus Lobo, or Superman and Lobo. That's a fight, people like to see. But I'm afraid it's just going to be, Lobo kicks his ass because Lobo.
Did any of you did you guys watch the most recent Superman animated film, The Man of Tomorrow, where like he Superman takes on Lobo? It was awesome.
Really, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, watch it.
It's a bit of an origin story for Superman, and it's kind of in the new direction of the DC animated films where they've kind of redone the art style. But the fight scenes between him and Lobo were just awesome, and if they can carry that kind of energy into a book, sure, go ahead. The one thing that I kind of thought was weird when I read the description of this story was like, there's like some kind of social media angle, and then a scientist who wants to study Lobo and Clark, and it's like, that's part of the story sounds a little janky, but if you're just going to give me a cool story where Lobo, Superman are fighting, they find a reason to team up to take on some greater threat, and then the fight will continue on some other day, I'm for it. Big punches.
Like, they fought like a half a dozen times, and usually there's not really a clear winner, and Lobo gets bored.
Yeah.
So, Perch, what are your thoughts on DC Black Label? It's obviously it's changed from what they originally announced. When it was supposed to be, Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder is going to be Frank Miller and John Romita Jr., Lieber Mijo and Brian Azzarello, and I don't know. It doesn't feel. Is it supposed to be special? It doesn't feel special anymore.
I mean, it was supposed to be prestige format comics from kind of top creators was the original billing, and then I think it kind of shifted into, maybe we can say, more swears over there. It can kind of be that.
You can't show junk. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and now it's now it's like titles that we don't want to fit other places. I mean, it's kind of that. I mean, the entire everything counts, the DC omniverse, everything matters everywhere, and it all matters, but maybe not this other stuff, but maybe it does. It's kind of confusing at this point. I'm not sure what that label's doing, but I'm not sure DC does either. They've got Hill House Comics. In theory, is still as an imprint. They have this new horror imprint for the tie-in to the movie The Conjuring, and then they also have this
Young Animal.
It's the lake on the wood, the house on the lake of the woods with the people and the shed. I don't know whatever that one is.
Yeah,
like, you've got all this different stuff going on. I don't know what any of their labels are anymore, and I don't think they do either.
Remember when Superman versus Lobo just would have been 2 or 3 issues of Superman?
I've got him over here. It's great.
Like they can just do that. It's okay.
Yeah, they could.
You could just put it in the title.
Yeah,
$7 for a Tim Seeley comic seems like a bit much, but that's just my thing. And let's move on to this next topic. I definitely want to get into this one. I just got chastised for my X-Men 20 review because they said I wasn't critically thinking about the story and I missed all these things. But I don't know. Perch, am I evil for liking that comic and giving it a high review and saying this gets me excited for Hickman moving on to this Inferno event or series, whatever it is?
You can like whatever the fuck you like. I mean, come on, people.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jesus, I just like you can like anything. I hate all this like, oh my God, you didn't like this enough or you dislike this enough. And I mean, like, everybody shut up. Just if you paid for the comic, you enjoyed it, then problem solved. That's the end. Magic.
Get off his junk.
Magic.
Just magic. That's all it is. Just you like the comic. It's fine. I mean, God knows I want to like more comics. So you liking a comic seems like a win to me, especially with this lineup.
I hope the title Inferno implies to them setting the Hell Gala costumes on fire. Like
that'll be the after effect. Yes.
Yeah. Like if that's what the story's about, I'll read 20 pages of that.
Does that mean we get half naked Madeline Pryor?
Yeah.
Didn't we always?
Reading X-Men number 20 is a lot like after you read it, it felt good in the way that like if your like dad ran out on you and like 2 years later he gives you a call and says he wants to like meet up and go over some things and like to see you again. And you're just so excited that your dad called you after 2 years, but you're not thinking about all of the trauma you went through in those 2 years he was gone. It's like that.
My goodness. Are you the one that left that comment, Joe?
No, I'm teasing. It wasn't that dramatic. It's just
I enjoyed it.
I thought it was good, but I felt like I had to know more. And I've read every issue, so I got a lot of work to do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that killed me, too, is my brother James, he texted me the other day going, like, I keep hearing that X-Men number 20 is good. Should I pick it up? He hasn't read X-Men in a few years, so he's like, would I be confused if I read it? And I was like, yes. You would have no idea what's happening.
So we do have a super chat from Lane Crater. Inferno, please, in story res Madeline Pryor so we get her in this and bring in Dynamite guys. Do some of the variant covers with her in there. That would be great for Perch's live stream on Fridays. You got the what is that? The Ash show where you show all the Dynamite covers?
Sure, why not? Yeah,
we need more Madeline Pryor.
Sure.
That's what
I just hate all of the recycling the same event names. We got Heroes Reborn, Clone Saga, Inferno. Do people remember that like Inferno, like Heroes Reborn wasn't considered a great event? The Clone Saga is considered a time in Spider-Man. A lot of people would like to forget. Inferno, not considered the greatest X-Men event. Like, I don't. Why are they doing this with these event titles? Like specifically, like it's very weird.
I'll tell you what, Inferno's one of those weird things that people want those back issues. They want them. They're like, it's all that Mutant Massacre, Inferno, stuff like that. That stuff sells like it wasn't poop back in the day. And, it's like, oh, this was amazing. This was awesome. And, okay, some of it really was, and some of it, not so much. But they want it anyway. They love it. So.
All right. So thank you to Lane Kramer We've also got a couple people chiming in on the Black Label. I'm sorry, we gotta get through this stuff. Black Label was a great idea that DC did not deliver on. Thank you to Kenneth Dowling. I never got to read Batman Dan. Was it that good?
Wiener.
It is one of the most beautifully illustrated comics you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah.
I don't love the story.
Daniel Warren Johnson's Wonder Woman Black Label book was great, and White Knight, Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight is a Black Label book as well. Like those to me, if the Black Label was that's a great line. But Superman versus Lobo, does it feel prestige? Does it feel like it deserves to be in this category? I'm not sure.
All right, so Perch, would you suggest Batman Dan? I would say look at it for the art, but don't read the words.
I mean, it's all right. I don't. There's a lot better books to go for. I think this isn't the best one.
Yeah, but it looks like $1 million. We've also got Doc chiming in. Black Label 2018, best of the best writers and artists, and Kelly Sue DeConnick. Black Label 2021, any other clown that is on a DCU title. Kind of what it feels like. Thank you so much, Doc. Oh my goodness, we've got a request from Darth Bobcat. Can we get a simultaneous magic? I think that's you and I, Perch. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Magic. Apparently not.
Take two.
Not at the same time.
We didn't get it
that
there.
later.
Sorry, Darth
No,
Bobcat.
we gotta go.
I tried. Is there anything else to say about Hickman's Inferno? Has this stoked any new interest, Uel, from your readers? Were they excited about this comic book?
I've got readers that are down with the X-Men stuff. So they're just like a Batman title. I'm not selling X-Core as high as the main title because of all the other ones that have come. So that and X Factor and a few other books are kind of like slow sellers. But this gala has I'll stick around for this at least, that kind of thing. So when they get to this, when they finally read 20, because a lot of people save up books. When they finally get to 20 and they read that, I think they're going to be very excited. They are.
It's funny.
All right.
I was going to say online, I don't hear a lot of people talking positively about the gala, but when I'm in the stores, I hear people talking about like wanting every cover and wanting the whole thing. So there's a real disconnect between online.
Yeah.
Fucking Canada, man.
Those
Yeah.
Douterman covers I think are going to be hot because they're all connecting, I think people will be nuts for that. And
it's like a human centipede.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't over order on any of these books though. It's like an X-Men centipede.
All right, now that we've hit the centipede mention, we'll move on to the last topic. J.J. Abrams finally admitted this week that he went into the Star Wars Disney sequel trilogy without a plan for the entire trilogy, and it may have been a mistake. Pele, I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
Should he just now realize that? Shouldn't he have realized that before he went into making the trilogy?
Oh, you would think so, wouldn't you? Yes. Oh my God, you mean that there's fans out there that don't like my ideas? What a concept! Yeah, it's just like this. It really takes a lot people sometimes. Certain creative types, it takes a while for it to really slap them in the face that what they came up with wasn't exactly the Holy Grail. So I'm really excited to see some of the possible changes and some of the rumors going around. I really like the creative direction changes that they've made at Disney, but I'm not holding my breath. So.
On another note, J.J. Abrams talked about Ed Brubaker getting screwed for money. So,
Perch, do these words make you excited that J.J. Abrams is the man that's going to be behind a lot of these DC properties now that he's got this big deal? He's going to be doing the Superman movie. It sounds like he's got a Justice League Darks movie that he's going to be or TV show he's going to be producing, and other things like this. I feel like he might not be the right man for the job.
I mean, I don't know. There's nothing in there that says I learned, and I mean, I'm going to do it differently. So, but I mean, he's a name. He's going to bring money and attention. So that's what he's here for. I mean, for all we know, his son's going to be the one directing Justice League.
Oh my God!
Rick Moranis Jr.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rick Moranis Jr. is right in the next Star Wars movie.
A lot of JJ's problem, a lot of Jar Jar's problems is that, bad reboot and the people that are associated with that, they're far worse than he is. So it depends. Is bad reboot involved?
Well, he's an executive. Obviously, it's going to be the people under him that are actually executing all this stuff. Yeah. But I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I haven't liked J.J. Abrams in a very long time.
Was it Star Trek or was it the end of Lost that got you?
Star Trek, I think, was the nail in the coffin.
Hey, those first two were really good.
Well, what was it? The first one I was fine with. The second one that killed me.
First one was good.
Oh, okay.
Just, the second one was, I was just like, oh no. And then from there, and then seeing Force Awakens, it was like me and Rich Evans were like the only guys out there talking about how it was like, it was fine. I've probably said this before, but I actually had posted about, like at least the Phantom Menace tried to do something like kind of different. And someone, this was on Facebook, and someone DM'd me to be like, I just want you to know that I am unfriending you because of that post.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, okay.
Oh, no.
Like, that was like, wow. Like, people were like, you couldn't talk about it. It was like, it was basically the equivalent. I imagine it would be like living in the same world as The Handmaid's Tale, right? Like, just people not being able to talk about how they feel about Star Wars.
How dare you?
It was crazy. And it didn't get better as they kept putting out movies. So it just got
insane. It's almost like everybody had their knives out.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
It was insane.
For me, it was the last season of Lost. That's the TV show that taught me to cut bait. Although I didn't learn it with Game of Thrones, I've essentially learned it with everything else. As soon as I can see the writing on the wall, I'm out of there, baby. I'm not going to finish this. This is going to suck.
You're assuming there was writing.
There wasn't any writing in last season. It was 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones didn't have writing.
For me, the funny thing about J.J. Abrams is, like, what's his goal in life? Like, you're essentially given the keys to the kingdom, which is Star Wars. And I think any of us have been in a room where some nerd is telling you his grand idea for what he would do with Star Wars. And the fact of the matter is, like, he didn't have that. Like, he was given it to him. Like, here you go. Here's Star Wars. Do whatever you want. And he remade
Star Wars.
His big idea was to remake Star Wars and then walk away from it. Like, are you Warner Brothers going like, I'm so glad we paid $500 million for this guy who doesn't plan or is even invested in what he's doing? That's my biggest concern with him.
I mean, his goal is to be rich, and he's been pretty successful at it.
He made it.
And I'm sure right. Studios are like, we would also like to be rich, and we made $1 billion, so we're also happy, and so therefore you keep getting work until you no longer make us rich, and then he won't be rich. Or he'll
Perch is in rarefied air this week. He is so sarcastic. I love it. Is it Jordan Fugate or Jordan Fugate here?
I have no
Fugate.
I'm going with Fugate. Jordan Fugate.
Sounds
with the $4.99 super chat. Abrams' name just doesn't have the pop that it used to anymore, in my opinion. Hope everything goes well next weekend, Wes. Well, thank you so much. I will be dropping some pictures on the community tab, putting some pictures out on Twitter when the baby arrives, when we're heading to the hospital, and keep you guys all appraised. But I have recorded a ton of content, so there should be stuff happening on the channel while I'm with the wife and the baby. And thank you so much for the well wishes. I really appreciate that. Does anyone have anything else to say about J.J. Abrams admitting that perhaps his plan for Star Wars wasn't well thought out?
Just basically, it was fine at first. I went back and looked at my old tweets from from when the Disney trilogy started, when Force Awakens came out, and it's like I was kind of positive. I was very positive on it, and then it changed, and then it kind of went downhill. And I was still excited up until The Last Jedi. And then after we saw that, I lost all hope. It was just instantaneous. And, Rian Johnson, and I don't know if it's really, it's J.J. Abrams' fault that he left the keys of the kingdom to Rian Johnson and he didn't just keep his thumb on him. Yeah. But, God, it's so bad.
Really, Kathleen Kennedy, but.
Yeah. She enabled that shit.
Between J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, they made the decision not to have Han, Luke, and Leia in the same scene.
They did.
At least once. It was them. And I think that's old fans, that's probably what we're looking for. We're looking for some kind of conclusion with these characters, and then we can move on to these new characters. And there was something I felt like I never got. I never got a conclusion to the old thing. I never got a, like, see you guys later, bye. I never got that moment. And
I feel like we did get that, and then they came back and reused those characters, and that's where the problem was.
Are you talking about the Forest Moon of Endor? Or are you talking about comic books?
Yeah, I'm talking about the movie. Right. I'm talking about the one with the Ewoks. They were all there, and they were looking up in the sky. They saw Anakin, and they need to change all that stuff, whatever. But if you're going to bring them back, I agree. They should have all had a scene together. It's like, hey, we can't do this anymore. You youngins are going to have to do it. Go do it. And then that's all we needed from them. And they squandered what they had.
You passed the torch.
Right? He tried to pass the torch. He threw it over his shoulder, and went and drank some titty milk. It was just.
Well, then there was that also. But I mean, J.J. Abrams, he was just rehashing old Star Wars, and I did not like it personally. I thought it was bad.
I agree.
This is vindication for all these guys who have been yelling on YouTube for the last 4 years, who have said there was no plan, and then it comes out there wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can tell that. For them. You can tell that with the second movie, and then the third movie. It's like, well, we got to fix this stuff, and that guy was fixing this stuff, and it was a mess.
And we got Zombie Emperor. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We probably hit this one hard enough. We're about 10 minutes over time. Let's do some comic book recommendations. Yeah. This was a fantastic week, at least on my corner, for reading new comic books. We've had a lot of good stuff to read. Since you are the new guy on the block, David, why don't you go first? What are you recommending this week?
Okay, this week, Red Room. Red Room by Ed Piskor. I'm recommending it. It's disgusting. I never would have. I follow the guys on Kayfabe. I think it's a great channel, and those guys' energy and the amount of passion they have for the books, or that Ed has, it made me want to buy it. And then I bought it, and I was grossed out, but I loved it. I felt like I was a kid reading something I wasn't supposed to. I was literally in my bedroom, wondering, I wonder if my wife's going to come in and see what I got here. And then I was hoping that I didn't leave it somewhere so that my daughter would find it and go, "What? This is what my dad likes." I think the art and all of it is just kind of a throwback to an older time, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much. Excellent recommendation. Let's throw it over to you. What do you guys at Fantastic Comics recommending people read this week?
I'm going to try and say something about a comic book that, so that I can give the other ones to y'all. Heroes Reborn #4 had James Stokoe artwork in it. And if you are a fan of James Stokoe, who did Godzilla Half Century War and Aliens Dead Orbit and all sorts of other stuff, including his own Orkstain, I highly recommend it just for this really fun Rocket Raccoon trying to take out a Dr. Prism story. And
what about Orphan in the Five Beasts?
Oh, that's another one. So he's got stuff going on right now, but this Marvel one hit me from. I didn't know it was going to happen, and I was really surprised and happy, and it really looks great. And Two Moons is excellent also.
Yeah.
Wow. Man. Tevi is recommending TMNT The Last Robin.
Yeah, that one's a good one too.
And I do want to say thank you to Joe Corallo, who suggested Orphan in the Five Beasts. It's actually a great comic. I didn't know that I would like a villain named Thunder Thighs.
Right.
It was pretty funny. Pretty gross stuff going on there as well. So that was excellent. All right, Joe, I'm going to throw it to you. What are you recommending this week?
What am I recommending this week? I really like the Stargirl special. I'm a big fan of that whole thing, what James Robinson did with Starman and passing the torch and all that. So anyone who likes that, Seven Soldiers of Victory, Justice Society stuff, I think will get a kick out of it. What was it? There was Mr. Miracle, The Source of Freedom, #1.
That was fun.
I like that one. Let's see. I mean, yeah, X-Men #20. I feel like a lot of people would recommend that anyway. This is, like Robin #2. Batman Superman #18. It's like I almost love this series. There's something off with it. It's very it's like a throwback to like Bronze Age kind of storytelling, late 70s, but it's too neat and too like it thinks it's more clever than it is. But anyway, so like, but if you like that kind of stuff, I'd recommend that. And also, I'd say if you want to try a new #1 from Image, was it Made in Korea #1 came out. My buddy Jeremy Holt wrote that, and it suffers a little bit from that, issue 1 syndrome of there's so much setup that I wanted a little more meat in that issue to move forward. But since I know Jeremy, I kind of trust that it's going to go somewhere interesting. So if you want to try New Image #1, and I think it's already got a little bit of heat behind it.
Right? That's a sequel, right?
I don't know if that's a sequel.
I think it is. It's a sequel to another series.
Okay,
I believe.
But yeah, it's that one is it's already being limited to like 1 copy per customer at like Midtown Comics. So there's apparently some level of hype behind it. So it might be worth checking out. But yeah, I'll wrap up there.
All right, Pele, what do you guys recommend down at Parts Unknown?
Okay, if you're not reading Beta Ray Bill and Maestro Warren Pax, I don't know what to say to you. Yeah, you need to be reading those 2 series. They're both fantastic. I've been on board since the beginning. Just love those series. I'm gonna just buy those, and I'm gonna talk about Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings #13, because these are comics they are based on the books, not the television show, and I love the vision for the comics better than I did even for the show, and they're fantastic. And this in my opinion is what keeps me bringing me back to them, is how well that they're done. The art can be kind of janky, but the writing is fantastic. It's really well done, pulled from the books well. Just read them. Because they're gonna, that's probably the only way you're gonna get the ending that you want outside of just reading the books, the Martin books themselves, if they ever come out. So,
thank you very much, Dark Admiral March Hare. I read Something Is Killing the Children trade paperback, pretty recommendation, Wes. Then you drop a video about #16, and you're giving me whiplash. Congrats and blessings on the new arrival. Something Is Killing the Children is a great series. I certainly recommend reading that first story arc. Going back and doing an origin story at this point feels like it could be very boring and full of exposition and a lot of stuff happening with people talking. Hopefully they're going out and finding a lot of monsters, but issue 16 was, as Joe was just talking about, it was a lot of people talking and setting things up. Not my favorite issue. I still recommend it. The series is great and the art is fantastic. So thank you very much, Dark Admiral March Hare. And we'll throw it to Perch. What are you recommending this week?
It was a number of books that I thought I'd like that I didn't really like, and then some surprises out there. I kind of like where they're going with Alien. I thought that was interesting. I wasn't a fan of. I like Haha a lot. This was the weakest issue, I thought.
Yes.
The run. That was disappointing. I was really looking forward to Mr. Miracle and really disliked that book. So that was because I'm a big Shiloh fan, and I said it went way off track in a few ways. Manifest Destiny is this book that keeps clocking that I've been enjoying more as it's gone on. I think that's opposite how most people think, but there you go. Monstrous was fun this week. There's a few things out there. I'd also like Stargirl. I thought that was I like seeing the hope. I mean that one is half about the promise of what I hope is coming out of that book. So if nothing ever comes, then my enjoyment will probably diminish somewhat. But No, there's some good stuff. I agree with Yoel. The Stoke art in Heroes Reborn was nice to see. I still don't love this event on any level, but I really appreciated seeing that. That was cool. So there's a handful of things in there.
Absolutely. I am recommending X-Men 20. I did a review on the channel and The Last Ronin, did reviews on both of them. I think they're both excellent. Beta Ray Bill, Maestro, Warren Pax, Action Comics. I'm loving the Daniel Sampere art in Action Comics. It feels like Phil Kennedy Johnson is going places with that. We'll see what happens with Superman when we get the new series by Tom Taylor, but it was a good week for comics for me. This is us signing off. There will be no Comics Aficionados next weekend. There's going to be basically the first issue of our new comic book collecting panel. You'll see Perch. You'll see Pele. You'll see Uel. You'll see Doc. And that will be airing in place of this. I will be in the hospital with wife and family. Thank you all for the well wishes. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Very much appreciated. Thank you to David for joining us today. First time on the channel. Had a wonderful time, wealth of knowledge, and really appreciated what you brought to it. So I will see you all later, folks. And actually, tomorrow there will be a live stream for the comic book writing, and that will be the last stream for a couple weeks.
Love you guys.
Bye.
I love them. I love them the most.